La Niña is a powerful weather pattern that begins in the Pacific Ocean, where cool water rises near the equator. This seemingly minor shift triggers a global chain reaction, altering wind and rain patterns across continents. La Niña is the cool phase of the El Niño Southern Oscillation, a cycle that has shaped Earth's climate for millennia. When the Pacific cools, wind patterns shift, changing where rain falls and where droughts take hold. Some regions face wildfires and drought, while others are inundated with rain and floods. Each continent feels La Niña's effects differently. Scientists track these changes with satellites and ocean buoys, helping communities prepare for what's coming. In North America, La Niña can mean colder winters and more hurricanes. In Southeast Asia and Australia, it often brings heavy rains and flooding. These aren't just minor weather changes, they're major events that disrupt lives and economies. In 2026, La Niña's reach became undeniable. Its origins in the Pacific set off a chain of events that would devastate Western Europe. The atmospheric highways connecting oceans and continents delivered a season of unprecedented weather. Western Europe, unprepared for the scale of what was coming, would soon face disaster. The story of 2026 is a lesson in how interconnected our planet's climate truly is. A shift in one ocean can unleash chaos on another continent. Understanding La Niña is key to understanding the extreme weather events reshaping our world. The events of 2026 would show just how far-reaching and powerful this phenomenon can be. As the Pacific cooled, the stage was set for a European catastrophe. The consequences would be felt by millions, far from La Niña's birthplace. The world would soon witness the true force of this invisible hand, and Europe would never be the same. La Niña usually brings subtle changes to Western Europe: colder, drier winters in the south, wetter and stormier conditions in the north. This is due to its influence on the North Atlantic jet stream, which guides storms across the ocean. But in 2026, La Niña was unusually strong and persistent, disrupting the usual weather patterns. The jet stream dipped far south, creating a direct path for storms to hit the heart of Europe. France, Germany, and the Benelux nations found themselves in the crosshairs. Weeks of relentless rain saturated the ground and swelled rivers. City drainage systems and farmland were overwhelmed. Major rivers like the Rhine and Seine rose to dangerous levels. Meteorologists grew alarmed as the atmosphere became primed for something worse. The persistent La Niña supercharged the Atlantic, fueling a series of storms. The ground was saturated, rivers swollen, a disaster waiting for a final trigger. All it needed was one powerful storm to tip the balance. That storm was already forming over the ocean. The stage was set for a historic catastrophe. Europe braced for impact, but few realized how severe it would be. The worst was yet to come. In late January 2026, the final trigger arrived, a powerful extratropical cyclone forming in the mid-Atlantic. Fueled by La Niña's unusual setup, the storm intensified rapidly, a process called bombogenesis. European agencies named it Cyclone Freya. Unlike typical storms, Freya was forced by the blocked jet stream to take a rare, devastating path straight into mainland Europe. Winds topped 100 miles per hour, and the storm pulled in vast amounts of tropical moisture. Freya made landfall on the coasts of northern France and Belgium, unleashing a massive storm surge. Coastal towns were inundated within hours and millions lost power. But the real catastrophe was the rain, falling on already saturated land. Freya maintained its strength as it moved inland, becoming a rare cross-continent cyclone. It swept across Belgium, the Netherlands, and into western Germany, dumping record rainfall. Rivers already swollen from weeks of rain now faced a deluge measured in feet. The slow-motion flood crisis became a violent, fast-moving disaster. Communities were caught off guard by the storm's intensity and speed. The cyclone's path cut deep into Europe, leaving destruction in its wake. Emergency services struggled to keep up as the situation escalated. The combination of wind, rain, and flooding was unprecedented. Freya's impact would be felt for years to come. The true scale of the disaster was only beginning to emerge. Europe was in the grip of a historic storm. Cyclone Freya's assault began with a brutal storm surge on the Belgian and French coasts. Sea defenses were overwhelmed, and low-lying areas vanished under churning water. The port of Antwerp saw shipping containers tossed like toys, Freya charged inland, barely losing strength and swept across Belgium and the southern Netherlands. Canals overflowed, pumping stations failed, and entire provinces became shallow lakes. The storm targeted the most densely populated, low-lying regions, maximizing damage. Western Germany was next. Torrential rain fell into narrow river valleys, triggering catastrophic flash floods. Small rivers became raging torrents, rising with terrifying speed. People were trapped. Homes and infrastructure swept away. The devastation echoed the floods of 2021, but on a much larger scale. Even as winds weakened, rain bands stretched for hundreds of miles. Eastern France, Luxembourg, and Switzerland also faced significant flooding. Freya's path was a scar across the continent, a single event amplified by La Niña bringing Europe to its knees. The full extent of the damage was only starting to be understood. The Netherlands, famed for its water defenses, was overwhelmed. Polders flooded, and the room for the river projects faced their ultimate test. Belgium suffered a two-front disaster. Storm surge battered the coast, while the Ardennes funneled rain into the Meuse, flooding cities like Liège. Germany's river valleys became deadly funnels, with entire villages wiped out overnight. The industrial Ruhr region was paralyzed, factories flooded, and infrastructure crippled. France endured widespread damage. Northern coasts battered, rivers like the Seine and Somme overflowing. Paris was protected, but smaller towns and farmland were devastated. The disaster touched millions across multiple regions. The scale of destruction was unprecedented in modern Europe. Recovery would be long and difficult. Homes in the flood zones were destroyed or left uninhabitable, forcing tens of thousands into temporary shelters. Cities lost roads, bridges, and power. Some communities were cut off for weeks, water treatment plants failed, and millions faced unsafe drinking water. The cost of rebuilding infrastructure soared into the hundreds of billions. Agriculture was devastated, fields submerged, crops lost, and soil contaminated. Livestock losses and ruined harvests led to food shortages and price spikes. Many family farms faced bankruptcy. Historic town centers and cultural sites were ravaged, with priceless heritage lost. UNESCO World Heritage Sites were threatened by floodwaters. The cultural loss was as profound as the physical destruction. Recovery would take years, and some losses could never be restored. The human toll was heartbreaking. Hundreds lost their lives, many caught by surprise as flash floods struck. Emergency services were overwhelmed, and many calls for help went unanswered. Amid tragedy, stories of heroism emerged. Neighbors rescuing each other, first responders risking everything, and volunteers arriving from across Europe. Communities came together, providing food, shelter, and hope. The psychological scars ran deep. Thousands suffered trauma, anxiety, and loss. Mental health support became as vital as food and shelter. The floods exposed deep social inequalities. Lower-income communities were hit hardest and struggled most to recover. The disaster became a lesson in climate justice, highlighting the need to protect the most vulnerable. Recovery had to be equitable to succeed. The resilience of survivors inspired the world. The memory of 2026 would shape Europe's response to future disasters. The continent vowed to do better. Europe mobilized on a massive scale. Governments activated emergency plans, deploying military and rescue teams. The EU coordinated resources. Italy sent pumps, Sweden rescue teams, Spain shelters. Satellites mapped the floods, guiding rescue efforts. Humanitarian organizations set up emergency shelters and distributed essentials. Financial aid flowed from governments, the EU, and public donations. The response showed the power of European solidarity. Volunteers filled gaps, ensuring survivors' needs were met. The immediate response saved lives and stabilized communities, but the road to recovery would be long. The 2026 floods were a wake-up call. Extreme weather was no longer rare or distant. Europe realized old flood protections were no longer enough. Nations invested in resilience, sponge cities, restored floodplains, and new warning systems. Urban design shifted to absorb water, not just fight it. Early warning systems were upgraded, with instant alerts and public education campaigns. The goal: no one caught by surprise again. The disaster accelerated Europe's climate action, pushing for a green economy and reduced emissions. Building resilience was only half the solution. Tackling climate change was the other. The memory of 2026 became a powerful motivator. Europe committed to a safer, more sustainable future. The lessons learned would shape generations to come. The fight for climate stability had never been more urgent.